Well, welcome back, everybody. We're continuing with the patient advocacy session. And now I'm happy to announce that it's time for Inspire2Live World Campus session. And I'm happy to pass the floor to Mr. Gerrit, who will be the moderator for the next 2 hours.
Thank you so much, Gergana. Yes, I'll be your moderator. You're leading this panel of the afternoon. Yes, we will talk a lot about the World Campus today, and I'll introduce you the people who are presenting. There is Peter, Kapitein, and me giving you an overview of Inspire2Live and the World Campus. We have Salome from Nigeria, who tells us about her project regarding the eradication of cervical cancer in Nigeria. We have Nuria Malat from Madrid. Hi, Nuria, good to see you. I will introduce each very briefly, so I will not go into the details of everyone. We have Rob ten Brink from the Netherlands. He is an anesthesiologist. He has a great story to tell about the use of lidocaine for pain management. Then we have Ilona and myself. Ilona is from the Dutch National Bank about working with IARC. We are setting up an affiliation with IARC. We want to share with you how that works. And then finally, Jeff is speaking. I'm sorry to say that Ripsime from Armenia is not present today. She had a very urgent meeting with the Ministry of Healthcare in Armenia, so last minute she had to tell us that she couldn't come. So I will speak on her behalf. Okay, one more thing, and then I give Peter the word. The World Campus, we often call it a rhapsodic event. We like many voices, also the many colors of voices. So do expect some level of chaos and order in all the presentation of today. Peter, I'll give you the word as the first speaker.
Chaos. Thank you very much, Jan. Yes, let me start with how everything began with Inspire2Live. Actually, it began in 2006 when we started a fundraising initiative. Well, it was a Dutch fundraising initiative, but we decided to climb mountains. And for the ones who do not know, the Netherlands have no mountains. So we went to France, we climbed Mount Alpe d'Huez. We had that crazy idea of doing that 6 times on one day, and we did that for fundraising. Well, the biking was a success, but the fundraising was even a bigger success. We started in 2006 raising 350,000 euros, of which we thought was an enormous amount of money. And of course, that is an enormous amount of money. But in 2012, we raised in 1 year 32 million. From the beginning, the Dutch Cancer Organization was the organization that we gave the money for doing research. But from the beginning, the director of that organization said to us, why don't you come up with an idea to spend the money? And well, we immediately thought, oh, that is probably quite normal that patients have a say in spending money for research. Well, a couple of years later, it appeared not to be quite normal, but we from the start did that. Patients working with researchers, clinicians, towards projects that benefit patients. And actually, that is what Inspire2Live still does. We bring together patients, researchers, and clinicians and have discussions on what is of great importance in your situation for cancer patients. And of course, hundreds of thousands of things are important for cancer patients. And when you have 350,000 euros, you can do less than when you have 32 million. But we have set up many, many projects. To give one example, I was diagnosed within 24 hours, but I learned that most patients had to wait for 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks for a diagnosis at that moment, 2006, 2007. So we set up a project, we call it early diagnostics, fast track diagnostic, not early diagnostics. I have to correct myself, fast track diagnostics. Walking to the hospital with a suspicion of cancer, and in 24 hours you know a yes or a no. And we call that project also preventing sleepless nights, because that patient or that person, because when you have not been diagnosed, you're not a patient yet, has a sleepless night because of the question, do I have cancer or not? But with that patient, there are also 10 other people who have that same sleepless night with that same question, is my loved one a cancer patient tomorrow or not? That are projects that benefit patients. Now, we started immediately as an international organization, but we started in Europe and Northern America. Since a year and a half, and Jan will tell them more about, since a year and a half, we have a footprint in Latin America, in Africa, in Asia. And when I talk to, for example, Ripsime in Armenia, I met her 2.5 years ago. After 5 minutes, I had a very intense experience. I thought, what would she be happy when she would have my problems? We live here in the Netherlands, she in Armenia, and the differences are enormous. Talking a year ago with Kamarogo from Kenya about treating patients, I learned that in some countries in Africa, and probably more countries in the world, people do not even have the money to pay for pain relief. Well, this afternoon, Rob ten Brink will tell you about pain management and what can be done about that. But here we have good treatments for pain management, pain relief in Africa. Many patients die without that, which is an extremely painful situation. Inspire2Live expanded to other continents, and for that reason we have good discussion. What is the situation in your country and what can we do about that, with an emphasizing we bring together people, connect people now from all over the world, and we call that the World Campus. And I think Jan can explain more about that.
Thank you, Peter. That's a wonderful introduction of our organization. Yes, it was a roller coaster for many, many years, right? Just unimaginable. Gergana, I had prepared some slides. Could you put them on?
Yes.
I rejoined Inspire2Live last year, right before the Corona crisis. And I was asked by Ilona, who is an important group member of the World Campus and of Inspire2Live. I was asked by her, hey, would you write a criticism of our annual conference of 2020? I had been away for a while, I came back, and I noted, among other things, that while we were internationally oriented, we were mainly oriented on Europe and North America. So I suggested we change that. We become a truly global organization. I was so lucky to be given the honor to start doing that. And in fact, in a year's time, we moved from 5 countries where we had a presence to over 35 countries where we have a presence. And this is now has been called the World Campus. So the idea was that we would create a lot of hubs all over the world, and the hubs would be country representatives. And these days, every month we come together on the last Wednesday of the month with a group of usually about between 25 and 35 people. So we have found a critical mass of people who participate, and we have always presentations. We have always progress reports about projects that we do. There's my first slide. So a couple of weeks ago, we had our first physical, I should say, hybrid meeting with the World Campus because we started right before the Corona crisis to build up the World Campus. We started actually not physical, but digitally in September 2020. And this year, September, we had our first partially physical meeting at the Royal Academy of Arts and Sciences. And what you see here on my first slide is the group that was present in Amsterdam, and the other 35 people were participating at a distance. I must say it was a truly new experience for me to do that. But here you see this group, and we are climbing the stairs to what we now call a new level. And I will tell you a little bit about it, but we have now this World Campus functioning in a very stable manner, and we are now gradually going to move forward. Can I get the next slide, Gergana? So I want to give you some history. And you probably recognize this ship. This is the Titanic. And you may also maybe not remember, but know at least, that in 1912, this ship hit an iceberg. And this event was used by one of our most prominent members of Inspire2Live, and these days of the Science Advisory Board of the World Campus, Bob Weinberg. It was used as a metaphor for the kind of situation he expected for cancer and cancer research and cancer treatment. And I want to remind you that he gave this presentation where he talked about a Titanic disaster for cancer research, cancer treatment, and development of new treatment in 2011. So this looks like pretty devastating as a metaphor, but I think it taught us a very important lesson, namely that if we want to treat cancer in a sustainable way, if we want to deal with cancer in a sustainable way, what is very important is prevention. So the corona crisis, I think, gave a very, very sad, but also very real example of what it is when a research and development and cancer patients who need treatment hit an iceberg. It was Mark Lawler, who you all know probably well from Queen's University in Belfast, who a few months ago showed us the numbers regarding the impact of corona on cancer treatment. And for many countries and for many places in the world, it is truly devastating. So it led us to conclude that indeed, if we want to prevent those disasters to happen like it happened, we have to put a lot of weight on prevention. Can I have the next slide, please? So we concluded with the corona crisis that we're on the right path and that we may be with others, but certainly with Inspire2Live and now the World Campus, on a path of what we call a revolution of the mind. We need to look at the world differently. We need to be looking way more radically at healthcare innovation, where prevention is so very important, and where the voice of the patient is crucial. And we need the voice of the patient that is an educated voice, that is an empowered voice. So hence my reference to what happened in the Enlightenment in the 17th century, 18th century, where actually the Netherlands played an important role, and that's why we were so happy that we were able to have our presentations and our meetings at the premises of the Royal Academy of Arts and Sciences in the Netherlands. Could I have the next slide, please? So, what are we doing as the World Campus? Well, I use here maybe a slightly difficult word. What we are doing is actually comparative justice. And I will explain what I mean by that. We don't strive for some crazy ideal. We try to get improvements for patients really done. And not just in one country, but in many. And we have embraced a number of principles, and I give you just a few of them and the most important ones here. First of all, everyone we work together with, we give and we ask for reciprocity. And it means that we share the resources that we bring and that people who join us bring to help each other. the one way, the other way. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that everywhere in the world and whoever joins us gets access to the resources that we together share. So this principle of reciprocity here is translated into what I've called pooling. So all members bring these resources together, and in fact, the members themselves, who are usually highly compliant actors, are the resources. So what you get is a very interesting shift, and that's what I would call this change of mindset, which I showed in my earlier slide, where we often think about the patient as a victim, as you have seen so beautifully illustrated in the story of Barbara. Gradually and over time, Barbara became not a victim, but an actor. And she has made a huge change to the health policy of the UK. And I think that's a beautiful example of how patients become a different kind of actor. They're not patients anymore in a way. Sure, they need support, they need help, but they're also change agents. So I call this out of many we, and not out of many one, as we usually think. Because as a world campus, we represent so many cultures, so many people, so many places, that we do speak as one voice, but the voice may sometimes be somewhat rhapsodic. There are different interests, there are different needs, there are different urgencies. So what lies ahead? Well, I think in the short term, and this is what we're already doing very actively, is to educate each other and raise awareness regarding problems that are that need to be solved, and also how they can be solved. At the medium term, we are again also working on that, but over time then the second step is to gradually increase capacity in different regions in the world, and particularly also in places where it's so much needed. I know capacity building is just as education is something pretty normal. The difference that we make, I think, with regards to many other organizations, is that we put the patient at the center as the actors. And we have found so many who help us. And in fact, and you will see that later today, we have also having scholar activists who work together with the patient advocates, and they do it together. And there's an amazing energy coming out of the cooperation. And then finally, long term, and let me not dwell too long on that, but that's a kind of a point at the horizon that we have, is we would like to create cancer councils. I take the analogy of in the Netherlands, which has water boards. You may know that the Netherlands is a country which is 2/3 below sea level. So there's a huge amount of attention paid to how you keep out the water. And the water is never treated as an enemy. And we believe that that could be a model for how all over the world we can create cancer councils, which have a strong emphasis on prevention. Final slide, please. Okay, yes, you turn to please go to the final slide, Gagana.
So this is what I have. This is the final one.
This is the final slide, yeah.
No, I just saw this new slide actually in my image. So it was there and it disappeared. Yes, there it is.
Yeah, the turn is opposite. Okay, there it is.
Yes, so we have it. So, oh, now I see it. I can see it. It's the same slide but slightly changed. Somehow they both got into one presentation. Well, doesn't matter. So it's the box. This is my final point. It's the BOX, which is an acronym that we want to support. BOX stands for Bottom-Up Cancer Support. What does it mean? Well, we have as a World Campus and earlier on discovered that prevention is considered by many patients the main point. And if you look at cancer as a worldwide problem, it's prevention that over time will make it possible to get rid of 50% of all the cancers. So it makes the iceberg that we may hit a lot less big. And Bucks is actually that. It stresses prevention, and then it also stresses pain management, which we're going to talk about later. And it also talks about performance, namely that in the case people do get cancer and there is no treatment available, or it's already in a late phase, at least people are enabled to function normally. Okay, thank you so much. That was Inspire2Live and the World Campus.